Thank you for watching Amir Shakil 5858. I am Amir Shakil. Now let's go to the current news headlines from major English news channels.
Tonight, several developing stories as we come on the air. Deadly tornadoes and a life-threatening heat wave. Dangerous weather impacting nearly half the country. U.S. stealth bombers are now on the move as the president holds an urgent meeting on Iran. And 2 people arrested in what police say was a plot to poison young women. First, that dangerous heat. More than 150 million Americans from Colorado to Maine now facing several days of heat alerts. This follows deadly storms in the Midwest, including tornadoes, homes destroyed, trains blown off the tracks, and wildfires in the West as that stifling heat builds in the East. The warning tonight from New York City's mayor, our weather team tracking it all. American B-2 stealth bombers now flying to Guam as President Trump considers whether to use them to attack Iran's underground nuclear facilities. Tonight, the president holding a critical meeting with his top national security advisors. And the battle between Israel and Iran intensifying. Marcus Moore in Israel, Selena Wang at the White House. Pro-Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil back with his family tonight. A judge ordering the Columbia graduate to be released after more than 100 days in ICE custody, while the Trump administration still wants him deported. Chilling new details on the suspect accused of killing one Minnesota lawmaker and wounding another. Authorities say he and his wife were disaster preppers and that they discovered thousands in cash, multiple weapons, and body bags in a storage unit. The frightening scene in Wisconsin, hazmat teams called in after a couple is accused in an elaborate plot to poison 2 women who once dated the man. Tragedy in the sky. A hot air balloon goes up in flames and plummets to the ground, killing some who were on board. New details on the death of celebrity chef Anne Burrell, what police say they found in her home. And America Strong tonight, the brave little boy celebrating 1 year since he got his life back. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight. Good evening. It's great to have you with us on this Saturday. I'm Wayne Johnson. Several developing stories as we come on. U.S. B-2 bombers moving across the Pacific as President Trump weighs whether to strike Iran, and the urgent meeting tonight with his national security team. But we begin with the deadly storms in the heartland and more than 150 million Americans on alert for dangerous heat. A state of emergency in North Dakota. At least 3 people killed. Severe thunderstorms and several reported tornadoes, leaving a trail of destruction across the state. A storm chaser capturing this massive twister, and these drone images showing about a dozen train tanker cars derailed by a tornado. The hot, dry, and windy conditions fueling multiple.
Let's go back to Trey Yinks. They now have sirens in Tel Aviv. Trey, what are you hearing?
Yeah, Trace, right now air raid sirens are sounding across Tel Aviv amid incoming ballistic missile fire. We've not yet seen any of Israel's air defense systems active, but we're going to wait and see what happens here. There are sirens, according to the initial alerts, sounding across the entirety of central Israel, all the way from Haifa in the north to the Negev Desert in the south. We also understand at this moment, this alert has gone out to everyone in this part of the country, sending millions of people into bomb shelters. Many people trying to get underground. There are a few cars out on the road right now, but you remember we talked about those emergency orders that went into effect from Israel's Home Front Command just before this missile attack took place. Again, we don't yet see any air defense systems that are active over the city at this moment, but we're certainly waiting to see how this develops. This is the initial Iranian response to the American strikes that took place overnight, targeting the country's nuclear facilities. There are also initial reports of air raid sirens sounding in Jordan as these missiles fly over that country toward Israel. And so, again, this is a very common occurrence over the past 9 days here, Trace, as these sirens will sound. They're interceptors. Yep. All right. And so we're going to get inside here. Stay with us, Trace. Get in.
Yeah,
all right, let's go. Move with me. We're with you. We're still with you, Trace. So we saw at least one interceptor over the city, Trace, an indication that the air defense systems are active over Tel Aviv. And this is, like Aaron said, the initial response. And in the distance, we can hear 2 booms. And
This is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz Millard.
Good evening. We begin tonight with new questions about a potential U.S. strike on Iran. 2 defense officials tell NBC News that B-2 stealth bombers have been moved to the Pacific. As of now, their mission remains unclear, but the timing is raising eyebrows as President Trump meets with his national security team, weighing whether to strike Iran. Those B-2 bombers are capable of dropping bunker buster bombs, which are believed to be one of the few weapons in the world that could destroy a critical Iranian nuclear facility buried deep inside a mountain. All of this comes at a very tense moment. Now, 9 days into this conflict, Israel and Iran are ramping up back and forth strikes, and tonight there is still no diplomatic breakthrough and no sign of de-escalation. We begin with Von Hilliard traveling with the president.
Tonight, the Pentagon deployed multiple B-2 stealth bombers from a Missouri airbase to Guam, according to 2 defense officials. Their mission unclear. But the movement comes as the president returns to the White House tonight for an intelligence briefing from his National Security Council, with potential U.S. attacks in Iran on the line. The president, though, also seemingly giving Iran an opening to restarting nuclear talks.
I'm giving them a period of time, and I would say 2 weeks would be the maximum.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this week suggested that Israel has the capabilities to remove Iran's nuclear facilities itself. President Trump particularly talking about Iran's Fordow nuclear site a half-mile underground, disputing that.
They really have a very limited capacity. They can break through a little section, but they can't go down very deep.
The U.S., the only country with B-2 bombers, which have the capacity to drop 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs. Iran's next steps are uncertain. While U.S. intelligence says that Iran has quickly amassed large stockpiles of highly enriched uranium in the last months, there is still questionable intelligence about just how close Iran could be to building a nuclear weapon.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon.
Your intelligence community has said they have no evidence that they are at this point.
Tonight, brace yourself. Just in time for summer, here comes intense heat and humidity. Millions under alert from Colorado to Maine. The dangerous weather powering up deadly storms in the Midwest, even knocking over a train. The threat now heading east.
I'm Allie Bauman in Newark, New Jersey, where extreme weather is having a ripple effect on summer travel.
I'm meteorologist Andrew Kozak. I'm tracking triple-digit heats of snow out west and severe weather for some overnight.
Also tonight on the move, B-2 bombers head across the Pacific.
I'm Natalie Brand at the White House with the latest as President Trump considers joining Israel's strikes on Iran.
Iran defiant and trading strikes with Israel.
I'm Deborah Patter in Tel Aviv, where daily missile barrages are the new normal as Israel enters its second week of war with Iran.
Hot air horror. Several are dead after a balloon catches fire and falls from the sky in Brazil. Immigration crackdown.
Emily's Preston in Los Angeles, where the city's beloved Dodgers are drawing scrutiny. Not for their play on the field, but their actions off it.
And later, graduation at last. A Vietnam War vet receives his diploma decades after dropping out of high school.
I guess a dream come true.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Good evening, Jerika is off. I'm E.T. Chen. This weekend will be a scorcher across much of the country. Summer is here, and so is an extreme and expanding heat wave. Some 200 million Americans could face dangerous and life-threatening conditions. That danger stretching from Denver to Washington, D.C. The heat and humidity expected to shatter temperature records. Tonight, severe weather in the
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple. Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with late breaking news. U.S. President Donald Trump announcing the United States has just directly attacked 3 nuclear sites in Iran. Donald Trump posting this on his Truth Social platform, announcing, "We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now out of Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordow. All planes are safely on their way home. Congratulations to our great American warriors. There was not another military in the world that could have done this. Now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter." That post from the U.S. President just moments ago. ago. And this, of course, marks a hugely significant development and escalation in the Middle East conflict, particularly the president's announcement that the United States had struck Fordo. That is Iran's most heavily fortified nuclear facility, buried beneath a mountain, and was thought to be out of reach of Israel and its strikes. Only the U.S. possesses the firepower necessary. B-2 stealth bombers capable of carrying 30,000-pound Buster bunker bombs, those capable of hitting targets deep underground. Earlier today, it had been reported that several U.S. B-2 bombers had left the United States and were flying towards the Pacific, and clearly this was their mission. And this, of course, means the United States has entered Israel's war against Iran directly. The White House had been calling on Tehran to agree to Trump's demands of zero nuclear enrichment, and that was something the regime in Tehran had been unwilling to agree to. In fact, Iran's foreign minister had just warned earlier today that if the U.S. were to get directly involved in the conflict, the result would be, in his words, quote, very, very dangerous for everybody. We are now waiting to see how Tehran will respond to this extraordinary and high-stakes direct intervention by the U.S. military in Iran. Israel's escalating conflict with Iran has drawn attention away from its war in Gaza and the humanitarian catastrophe unfolding.
Tonight on PBS News Weekend, the deadly conflict between Israel and Iran enters a second week as Iran warns that U.S. military involvement could trigger retaliation. Then the impact of the Trump administration's decision to end specialized suicide prevention services for LGBTQ plus youth. And travel guru Rick Steves' goal of getting more Americans to choose travel and transform their worldview.
I want to embrace culture shock as a good and constructive thing, not something to avoid, but something that is a valuable product of thoughtful travel. It's the growing pains of a broadening perspective.
Major funding for PBS News Weekend has been provided by
has taken America into a Middle Eastern war.
Okay, Nikki Hodgson, back to you in a moment. It is 6 o'clock. And the breaking news this morning is that the United States has launched a series of airstrikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure in what President Trump has called a spectacular military success.
In a late-night address, the president declared Iran's key nuclear sites completely and totally obliterated, warning Tehran to make peace or face far greater tragedy.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent
back to the France 24 newsroom here in Paris. Our headlines. Iran fires a new salvo of missiles at Israel. It comes after Donald Trump announced that the U.S. bombed the nuclear sites of Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordo, where they're believed to have used massive American bombs known as bunker busters. Well, in an address following the strikes, Trump said that Iran's key facilities have been, quote, totally obliterated. The U.S. president warning that any Iranian retaliation against the U.S. would be met with force far greater than what was witnessed. We'll get the latest from Washington with Fraser Jackson and from Israel with our senior reporter, Catherine Norris-Trent. Iran's foreign minister called the U.S. attacks outrageous and warned that they will have everlasting consequences. He also warned that Tehran reserves all options to retaliate. We'll get more reaction from our correspondent Saeed Azimi in Tehran. Thank you for joining us. He said he would take up to 2 weeks to decide. It turned out to be 2 days. In the early hours this Sunday, Donald Trump announced that the U.S. bombed 3 Iranian nuclear sites, Natanz, Isfahan, and notably Fordo, hidden deep inside of a mountain. Israel had been urging the U.S. to join the conflict in large part because only massive American bombs known as bunker busters are believed to be capable of reaching that site. Trump told Fox News that 6 of the bombs had been dropped on Fordo, while 30 Tomahawk missiles were fired at Iran's other nuclear sites. Inko Yatade has more on what we know so far.
After days of speculation, the U.S. answers the Israel-Iran.
Our time, we will take you there as soon as the media conference begins. Obviously, many people around the world leaders, will be waiting to hear what he said. He has spoken on Truth Social already today, saying Fordo is gone. There have been reactions to suggest that perhaps it has only been around the outskirts, but they are unverified. So no doubt, we will hear from the U.S. on exactly what the U.S. has been.
And that's certainly no surprise him breaking news on social media. He's done that throughout his political career, even in his first term as US president. And again, in his second term, the world finding out via a media service as to exactly what had happened and the very serious potential ramifications that are yet to unfold.
Well, let's bring in now Ben Knight, who's been with us this morning, speaking about what has been happening, former correspondent in the Middle East. Ben, what are you expecting from Donald Trump when he steps up shortly?
Well, I think he will be claim a win, and that's something that's is very important to Donald Trump.
This is live from the U.S. joins Israel in bombing Iran. President Donald Trump says the U.S. Air Force has destroyed Iran's key nuclear facilities after dropping bombs on several sites. The attack ends speculation over whether Washington would get into Israel's conflict with Iran. The Israeli military confirms it's working to shoot down a barrage of Iranian missiles, some of which have hit northern and central Israel after the U.S. strikes that
Africa News. The news.
Speaking at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum on Friday, President Vladimir Putin downplayed warnings that Russia's economy is on the brink of a recession, pointing instead to the steady growth of the country's manufacturing industries. The perception of the Russian economy is based on raw materials and dependent on hydrocarbon exports clearly become outed. It's receding past Putin said that high defense spending has propelled growth and kept unemployment low, despite fueling inflation. I'll reiterate, we will increase the combat capabilities of Russia's armed forces on a new technological basis, modernize the facilities of military infrastructure, provide them with the latest weapons and equipment, which will prove their efficiency in practice on combat conditions. At the same time, we intend to develop military technical cooperation with friendly countries. It's not only the supply or modernization of weapons and equipment, but also collaborative development, trainings, the creation reallocation of enterprises and production capacities on a turnkey basis. But over the long term, inflation and a lack of foreign investment pose threats to Russia's economy.
As part of an FDA-approved clinical trial, a robotic prostatectomy was successfully carried out remotely from Florida on a patient located in Angola. This groundbreaking procedure was conducted by the team at Advent Health Global Robotics Institute.
We will operate from the United States to Africa in an FDA-approved clinical trial. We'll be performing a robotic prostatectomy for men in Angola who otherwise would not have access to high-end surgical care.
This achievement holds the potential to revolutionize global healthcare by offering high-quality, minimally invasive surgery to patients in underserved regions who typically lack access to such advanced treatments.
Distance before, and telesurgery is becoming more and more common, but it's never been done in this way, at this distance. Never from the United States to Africa, and never where it's been approved by a legal agency like the FDA.
The robotic surgical system is integrated with sites worldwide, including a few countries in the America, including the Sao Paulo, Kuwait, Morocco, Angola.
But imagine now you can help people all over the world at the click of a button. Right now, this robot is connected to Sao Paulo, Brazil, connected to Kuwait, Morocco, Shanghai, Angola, and it's about to be connected to multiple other cities. So imagine from one place, now you can help people around the globe.
The clinical trial also aims to assess long-distance robotic surgery safety, reliability, and latencies, which relies heavily on stable, high-speed internet connections and real-time communication protocols.
Consensus. Developments in the region. Israel's defense ministry says its warplanes struck and killed 3 Iranian commanders, including the head of the East. And relief and cleanup efforts underway in flood-hit southern China, even as authorities warn downpours will continue to lash parts of the country tomorrow. And that's the latest from the CNA newsroom.
Good morning. It's 7 o'clock. President Donald Trump orders strikes on 3 new...
Indeed, at around midday.
Inside Iran and follows up with a warning to Tehran.
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
B-2 bombers dropped 6 bunker busters on those facilities as Israel's Netanyahu hails Donald Trump's intervention.
His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace.
Welcome. With breaking United States. Frankly, days of certainty.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.